Hey guys, so before we get to today's video, I want to let you know that this week's video is brought to you by Loot Crate. Loot Crate, if you don't know what it is a monthly subscription service that delivers geek and gamer gear right to your door. And for you guys, because you're all loyal viewers of my show, Loot Crate is offering 10% off new subscriptions if you go to this link. Try lootcrate.com/BlackScarabFilmZ and enter the code BRIGS10, as in Briggs Carson, SPD Green Ranger, 10. September's theme is Invaders, and contains items from Alien, my favorite sci-fi horror movie, The Predator, Marvel's Venom, and The X-Files, and I want to believe that their X-Files item will probably be the highlight if past crates are any indication. If you go to that link by the 19th of September, you'll get that crate. And if you're curious as to what to expect, I've got August crate right here because I'm not only doing a sponsorship deal, but I'm also a subscriber. Yes, I know I used that joke in the last promo, but I haven't beat it into being unfunny yet. Anyway, August theme was Mayhem, and included an Office Space t-shirt, which includes references to all the famous scenes from the movie, including the stapler. And it had a Rick and Morty Monster Mayhem figure, which would look really good up on display next to my Peace Among Worlds Rick figure from last summer. A Harley Quinn notebook featuring the classic costume, naturally. A Superman pop socket, and according to Loot Crate, it was random and other people might have gotten Wonder Woman or Batman related ones. And finally, a Courage the Cowardly Dog pin, which gets you some e-comics including Valiant's Bloodshot Salvation. So if you've been on the fence and like what you see, or you wanted to wait until you can get a discount for the first month, there's no better time. The link once again is trylootcrate.com/BlackScarabFilmZ, and the code is BRIGS10. Anyway, on to the review. Hello and welcome to How to Fix It. This week is the 25th anniversary of the premiere of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And Power Rangers is giving it the grandiosity it deserves by having a team-up episode made up of several past Rangers joining the Ninja Steel team to fight against an unbeatable foe. By the time that this video goes up, because my videos upload on Fridays, it'll have already released, so I'm sure that you know if it was good or bad. I thought it was lackluster and a bit too rushed. Returning were several fan favorites, including Tommy, Rocky, Cat, and TJ from the Zordon era, Wes from Time Force, Trent from Dino Thunder, Gemma from RPM, Antonio from Samurai, Gia from Megaforce, and Coda from Dino Charge, allowing us to see brothers Yoshi and Peter Sudarso team up. It's not the best lineup and it skips a lot of fan-favorite seasons, but it's a good mix of old and new, and at the very least, it's not the worst anniversary team-up by a long shot. Even though it kinda sucked, they'd have to deliberately screw it up to make it worse than what I'm reviewing today. I admit, Legendary Battle is pretty bad, but Megaforce as a whole was a crapshoot, and the final episode was just the tip of that iceberg. No, what we're looking at today is the 15th anniversary episode, Once a Ranger, which is the worst of the milestone episodes that Power Rangers has done, at least in my opinion. Then again, I didn't really like Operation Overdrive, so it's an uphill battle with me. What made the episode so bad? Well, if I told you here, you'd have no reason to watch the rest of the video. So, let's take a look at this much-maligned anniversary team-up episode. This is Once a Ranger. And I've always wanted to do this. It's morphin' time! Oh. It always looked a lot easier on the show. Come on. This takes place during Operation Overdrive, a season that, sadly, is when I jumped ship from Power Rangers. Sort of. While I watched reruns of Mighty Morphin and Zeo as a kid, and I know I watched Time Force and Wild Force when it was on, along with owning a few episodes of Lightspeed Rescue on VHS, I didn't start to regularly watch Power Rangers as it aired until Ninja Storm, and continued watching it religiously until Mystic Force ended. So I didn't actually see this episode when it aired. I think I probably saw it about a year or so later, when Jungle Fury or RPM was airing. It was that period where watching Power Rangers wasn't cool anymore, and Overdrive just didn't interest me. I would later return as a fan during Jungle Fury and drop off again during RPM, only returning during Dino Charge because everything between RPM and Dino Charge was an absolute train wreck. I feel like we got off topic. Oh right, Overdrive. The plot of that season is that the Rangers are attempting to find and safeguard the gems of the Corona Aurora, a mystical item that grants immense power when fully put together from the various villain factions that desire the power. Flurious, Moltor, Camdor, and the Fearcats. The Rangers are aided by the incorporeal form of the Sentinel Knight, who scattered the gems on Earth to protect them an indeterminate amount of time ago. This season's civilian powers are in the form of genetic enhancements, or in the case of Tyzon, the Mercury Ranger, just how his species works. The team consists of Mac Hartford, the Red Ranger, sheltered son of the mentor figure, globe-trotting billionaire adventurer Andrew Hartford. Will the Black Ranger is a spy for hire, one of those guys who steals to test security systems. Dax the Blue Ranger is a stuntman, and extremely annoying. Ronnie the Yellow Ranger is a race car driver, and Rose, the Pink Ranger, a Mensa-level genius. Oh, and Tyzon the Mercury Ranger is an alien who's out for vengeance against the Fearcats who killed his fiancée. The episode starts out with the Rangers stopping Camdor from stealing a gem from a museum. Not a Corona Aurora gem, but still valuable, especially to Camdor's assistant. As they mug for the news cameras, Camdor, his assistant Miratrix, along with the other villains from the show, including Flurious, Moltor, and the Fearcats, are recruited by a mysterious figure named Thrax, who has a plan for taking down the Rangers. Thrax is the son of Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa, imprisoned by the Sentinel Knight, which is what presumably shielded him from the Z-Wave that purified his parents. Thrax wants them all to team up to help destroy the Rangers, and while some of them are hesitant, their desire to destroy the Rangers outweighs their objections. Meanwhile, the Rangers are sitting around talking about how awesome their lives are because they're Power Rangers, and only Tyzon remembers to say how happy he is about his job because it involves saving the world. The humans are all in it for the fame, glory, and excitement. Our heroes, everybody. Thrax and his Discount United Alliance of Evil show up to confront the Rangers, and they go in for a fight. But the sheer numbers are overwhelming. The Rose shows her genius when she pulls out a Zord to fight off the massive army. Yeah, Zordon said no escalating a fight unless you have to, but with an army of foot soldiers that size, it's a pretty good idea. Thrax and his alliance succeed, and not only defeat the Rangers, but also severs their connection to the morphing grid and damages their morphers. The Sentinel Knight teleports them away, and the villains plan to now scour the planet for the remaining jewels. Camdor and the Fearcats go to Stonehenge, no doubt trying to figure out who's trapped inside the Pandorica. Side note, I don't know if Titan has a relationship with Boom Studios, but we desperately need a Doctor Who crossover in the same vein as Assimilation Squared. The Rangers try to fight without their powers, but they're simply outmatched. Thankfully, the Sentinel Knight has enough power reserves to bring in some reinforcements.
Looks like you guys could use a little help.
Yes! The real Power Rangers are back! Returning for this team-up are Xander, the Mystic Force Green Ranger, Bridge, the former Green and Blue SPD Rangers, who is now Red because they needed a Red Ranger and Sky was too busy with his new posting on the USS Shenzhou. And I'm not even kidding about that. Sky was on Star Trek Discovery. Additionally, we have Kira, the Yellow Dino Thunder Ranger, Tori, the Blue Ninja Storm Ranger, and Adam, the Mighty Morphin Frog Ranger.
I'm a frog.
Mastodon Ranger. They manage to push back the opposing forces and return victorious to the Overdrive Command Center. The former Rangers, save for Briggs, who didn't retire at the end of his season, are all happy to be back in action. But the Overdrive Rangers start to feel like they're useless since all their duties are well attended to by the veteran Rangers. And because of that, they decide to leave Operation Overdrive to go back to their old lives. Because it's not like they could, stick around and assist in other ways. Cam wasn't a ranger at first, yet he was invaluable. In fact, there were problems caused by him becoming a ranger because he couldn't be 24/7 tech support. Billy spent months without his powers after they went Zeo, and he never felt useless. Sure, he missed being a ranger and expressed that, but he didn't decide to just up and leave. Until he did, but that was necessitated by shitty behind-the-scenes behavior on the part of the production staff, and had Yost not left, Billy probably would have lasted at least till Zeo's end. I'll go more into my feelings on that a bit later. The Overdrive team stuff, not the David Yost Zeo stuff. Thrax declares his intent to go after the Sword Excelsior, which is the only weapon capable of destroying the Sentinel Knight, because Revenge, and Mac, the only ranger who remains behind, because, well, it's their house that they work out of, decides to go find it first, running into Rose when he asks if she has any information on it at her school's library. The other Rangers, in the meanwhile, are finding their old lives to be much less fulfilling than being a Power Ranger. Big shock. The veteran Rangers head to Angel Grove, fighting off more foot soldiers in an attempt to locate a specific crate that contains something that Adam believes can help repair the morphing grid. And what's inside that crate exactly? Alpha 6! Well, it's not the worst voice they've gotten. Still wish they could have gotten Invader Zim back. They get Alpha working on repairing the grid while Mac finds the sword. But Thrax did the smart thing and kept an eye on him, since the Rangers have public identities, so Mac led him right to the sword. Just goes to show you that even crap villains can make smart decisions. Like Elgar finding the command center by their teleport signal in Turbo. Honestly, I'd probably believe Thrax is Elgar's long-lost brother more than I believe that he's the son of Rita and Zed. The sword refuses to release itself to Thrax, however, and the other Overdrive Rangers show up, having been told by Rose of Mac's plan. Thrax hightails it out of there because...
If I can't have the sword, then I'll trash your entire planet!
And sends a giant monster into the city, the veteran Rangers going into a Zord battle. It does disappoint me that they're just using the Overdrive Zords, because you have no idea how much I want to see the old Zords back in action, even if it's kind of impossible, due to the fact that most of them were destroyed at the end of their respective seasons. The group fail to take the sword themselves until they talk about how even without their powers, they're still Rangers and the statue releases it. The monster is about to destroy the veteran Rangers when Mac rushes in, unmorphed, with the sword and slices it in half. Yes, that is as stupid as it sounds. Even factoring in a later revelation about Mac's abilities, that's still incredibly dumb. Mac gives the sword to the Sentinel Knight in order to make sure it can never hurt him, and as a fringe benefit, it restores him to corporeal form. The Rangers request to return to Overdrive, and Hartford obliges, before Alpha returns from the grid, having restored the Overdrive powers to normal. Florius revives the defeated monster, and the two teams head out to take on the Alliance of Evil. And despite the episode being crap, the big team-up morph is pretty impressive. They fight, and the battle is fairly awesome, ending when the Sentinel Knight arrives to destroy Thrax himself. Because of their shared history, yada yada, I don't really care. The villains try to keep fighting, but the combined teams stop them in their tracks, with the alliance ending then and there. The Rangers are victorious, and the veterans bid the newbies adieu, giving some lip service to what they've been up to since their respective seasons ended, and Briggs getting Spencer, the butler, to make him some toast that is...
buttery.
But not before they all pile their hands and shout, "Go Go Power Rangers," mirroring the end of Day of the Dumpster. Most people's main complaint about this is that it favors the Disney seasons very heavily, save for Adam. And I have no problem with that, for two reasons. One, the Sentai counterpart, which they didn't get footage from, but I'd be surprised if they didn't at least garner a bit of inspiration from. Bokenger vs. Super Sentai, done for Super Sentai's 30th anniversary, also favors the same seasons. They make different Ranger choices, assuming something about actor availability, but apart from not having anyone from Jew Ranger, that movie featured Hurricaneger, Abba Ranger, Deca Ranger, and Magi Ranger, along with having Akka Red, the embodiment of all the previous Red Sentai warriors. And 2, like I said at the start of this video, I watched Power Rangers religiously when it aired during the time that Ninja Storm was on up until Mystic Force ended. So finding out that a team-up not only included Adam, who was one of my favorites from Mighty Morphin, but representatives from the seasons that I had spent the last 4 years watching made my jaw drop. And even knowing how terrible it is now, that scene when they arrive and demorph at Stonehenge is still kick-ass. In fact, any scene with the veteran Rangers in it is awesome. They're written properly and act like the same sort of people they were on their teams and their time as Rangers ended. We get Buttery, Plan Xander, all the fun stuff, even if Adam running a dojo doesn't entirely make sense. Makes me think that they initially planned for Austin St. John to return as Jason, since him running a dojo I'd understand. There's also a really good use of the retro theme songs during the fight scenes, even if we couldn't have Go-Go Power Rangers for whatever reason. And speaking of, the fight scenes are awesome. It's rare that Power Rangers screws that up. And it was nice to see Alpha 6 again, though it would have made more sense if it was Alpha 7 from the Megaship Mark II rather than Alpha 6, but at least it gels with Alpha 6's voice being swapped out between almost every season that they're a part of. I also think that Thrax, at the very least, had a smart plan. Unite all the splintered evil factions into one, because one big force is better than several smaller ones. Truthfully, anything involving the Overdrive cast is crap, but it is a worth it two-parter just to see the veteran Rangers back in action again. First and foremost, the Operation Overdrive team are dicks. They act like being a Ranger is the best thing that's ever happened to them, and then act all mopey because they lost their powers. Yeah, that's a traumatic experience, but most other teams would just be happy that someone else was picking up the slack that they couldn't. And then they just abandon the cause. Jackie Marchin said in an interview that there were cut scenes that would have made them seem nicer, but I don't think it would have fixed much. Thrax is also a weak villain and looks stupid. Part of it is the voice, because he doesn't sound anything like Rita or Zed. Either have him be high-pitched or give him the deep Zed voice. This generic voice isn't doing him any favors when he looks like that. There's also the fact that the two teams barely spend any time together doing anything apart from fighting or a few seconds between fights. We get hints at friendships between Dax and Bridge because they're the goofy guys on their team, but apart from that, the Rangers don't really have any interaction with each other outside of fighting. My main problem, though, is this. Why didn't the Overdrive team pool their skills that they were apparently chosen for together to aid the team in different ways, rather than sitting around moping or playing pool? In the finale for Lightspeed Rescue, every Ranger, including Joel, the stunt pilot, with the least relevant skills for emergency services, ran, leaving their morphers behind with Captain Mitchell when they saw a fire downtown. Sure, Carter saw it first and ran because he was a firefighter, but the rest of them joined almost immediately, except for Joel, who didn't have to be prodded into it. He weighed the situation and left his date with Miss Fairweather that he had been vying for all season. And I don't even know what a stunt pilot could do to help with a fire. And yeah, it's a funny line when Captain Mitchell shouts after them that they forgot their morphers, but it also shows that they weren't just heroes when they were Rangers. They were heroes with or without powers. I'm using Lightspeed Rescue to show a different perspective because Linkara talked about the other examples of lost powers, but still fighting, but those situations happened while the major threats of their seasons all still existed and had to be fought. Here, the threats are still out there, but the veteran Rangers were keeping them well in hand, so it was basically like the end of Lightspeed. And it's not like they ever have any altruistic reasons for returning to the team. They just realized that, oh, we were being dumb. They weren't prodded into it by a crisis. They just wanted the damn sword. And don't even get me started on how stupid that scene with the sword is. This is minor, but why is Alpha 6 in Angel Grove? Wasn't he last on Miranoi following the end of Lost Galaxy? And even if he returned like Bulk, how did he end up in a crate in Angel Grove? That's not a very nice way for Adam to treat a former friend and ally. And yes, the same thing basically happened in Doctor Who, where Sarah Jane had to keep K9 locked in her trunk until the Doctor came back into her life. But that was because Sarah couldn't fix him, and the technology to do so didn't exist on Earth. You're telling me with Project Lightspeed, Biolabs, Nasada, Alpha was so damaged by something that he needed Andrew Hartford to fix him? Why was Alpha deactivated at all? What, did Alpha see something he wasn't supposed to? And side note, yeah, the voice is annoying, but honestly, I'll take anything over.
Yo, what you talking about?
Oh, and as I am so fond of shouting in these videos, don't reference better shows in your crappy one. Don't just show a warehouse in Angel Grove. Show them in a city. Angel Grove was mostly stock footage anyway, so who the hell would notice if it didn't look exactly the same? Don't just mention Zordon and Tommy, because all it does is remind me about how much better Dino Thunder did this with Legacy of Power. At least that episode got to use Go-Go Power Rangers. Additionally, the effects and CGI were crap, but it's Power Rangers, and the effects have never been top-notch. Not even when they had a movie with a budget behind them. The effects aren't even top-notch now in 2018. But I'm not holding that against the episode because it's a problem with Power Rangers overall, and it's not this specific episode's fault. First off, show the Operation Overdrive Rangers using their skills to aid the veteran Rangers. Dax is a stuntman, and people in Hollywood are pretty connected. Maybe he knows a guy who can make a convincing decoy jewel to give to the Alliance. Will is a spy. Let him advise on the covert ops to the Alliance's base. Be the guy on the other side of the headset. You know, like Wade from Kim Possible. Ronnie is a driver. Send her out as a distraction in one of their vehicles. It's gotta offer enough protection for her unmorphed for that to be feasible. Rose is a friggin' genius. Have her assisting Hartford in developing new tech. Why were they just sitting around? They could have been helping in the command center. Mac can also help his dad out, and Tyzon. Well, Tyzon shouldn't have left. He should still be helping to get revenge on the Fear Cats, because that's his entire motivation. Second, I'd make the teams interact more, which would alleviate their jackassery because they'd be developed more, and if they did decide to leave, they'd at least been given the new situation a chance. Maybe if they were actually shown to be useless, I'd be okay with them wanting to leave to try to feel useful. But they didn't actually try to help on screen, so I can only assume that they didn't. Thirdly, I'd make Thrax more threatening. Linkara suggested this, but get Robert Axelrod to do the voiceover. Hell, the voice actor for Camdor is the same guy who did the evil White Ranger in Sledge. Have him do the voice. Or hell, even Campbell Cooley, who while a crappy alpha, had a pretty menacing voice as Snide. Better than Thrax's actual voice. And I'm sure parent groups have cooled down since Zed was introduced, so maybe have him more inspired by the exposed muscle stuff from Zed, rather than having the goofy half-human face and silly underbite. Fourthly, that stupid scene where Mac destroys the giant monster unmorphed with the sword. If he just defeated a standard monster, I'd be fine. If he handed it to the Sentinel Knight and he used it to destroy a giant monster, that's fine. What we got? Not fine. And is one of the worst moments in the episode. Fifthly, get their continuity straight with Alpha. Fix Alpha's voice, maybe call up one of the past voice actors. Maybe have Adam dig Alpha out of some secret place near where the command center used to be. One of Alpha's old bodies that has a personality disc that Adam got from Carlos after In Space ended. The rarely mentioned Alpha 4, perhaps. Least it makes Alpha being locked away make sense and justifies it. And of course, if I made this, the references would be tasteful and not make me want to just turn on an old episode of Power Rangers, like Forever Red or Thunderstorm. The 10th anniversary gave us Forever Red, which despite some problems and a fairly stupid ending, was still magical, seeing all the Red Rangers from up until that point uniting together, seeing the return of some that as a kid I never thought I would ever see again. The 500th episode gave us a clip show that cataloged the history of the franchise, which, while lackluster, still at the very least respectfully handled the subject matter, and it serves as a prelude to the return of Tommy Oliver to active Ranger duty. Once a Ranger is a team-up, of mostly Disney-era Rangers fighting against Zed and Rita's never-mentioned-before son after he disables the Overdrive Rangers' connection to the morphing grid. And what do the Overdrive Rangers do after losing their powers? Decide that their lives aren't fun anymore and leave the team, despite the fact that they could absolutely still be aiding the replacement Rangers with their genetic enhancements and civilian skills. The episode was an absolute train wreck, but it could have been good. It's really not that hard to make it good, which makes it all the more infuriating that it wasn't good. But at the very least, it's just one bad episode, not like Megaforce's 2 seasons worth of infuriation. I might tackle that one day, but that would require me to actually be able to sit through an episode of Megaforce, so it might take a while. In the meantime, it's just about time for our yearly Sliders review. And how fitting, considering that the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic series is about to turn into Power Rangers' answer to Sliders. Last year we did a poll, and it was really fun, so I figured we'd do the same thing again this year. However, we're sticking with the rejects from last year, since I can't decide on which one was worse. That's up to you guys. Will it be El Cid from Season 2, or To Catch a Slider from Season 5? Go to either the Google form or Patreon to vote, and I'll try my hand at fixing that in 2 weeks' time. See you next time. It's morphin' time. Oh, now I get it right the first time. Spent a week and a half getting it wrong, and now I get it right on the first shot. It's morphin' time. You've gotta be fucking kidding me.